Pesach's Bava Kamma Daf Daled contains two Mishnayos, three sugyas. The first sugya, until the first Mishnah, is discussing what happens if the value of the Shar Hamazik or the Shar Hanizik goes up from the time that the attack happens until the time we go to court to actually pay the money. Then we'll get to our first Mishnah, which will discuss another situation and introduce the topic of who deals with the carcass of the nevela. And we'll get to our last Mishnah, which compares the hezek of a person to the hezek of his cow, and how the halachos are different there. So we begin with the brisa. The brisa discusses what happens if the value changes. So first of all, what happens if the value of the nizik changes? The brisa begins by saying if you have a shar worth 200, that gores another shar worth 200, and the damage that is caused is a damage of 50. So 50 is the total cost. He's a tam, so he pays half of that. He owes 25. And that's because the value of the shar hanizik dropped from 200 to 150. But then, says the brisa, actually what happened to us is following the attack, before the Hamad Bedin, before they actually went to court, the value of the nizik went up to more than it was before. It actually went up to 400. So you may think now, the mazik could say, I don't owe you anything, because whatever loss was caused is totally erased. So the Gemara says, the brisa says, no, we can't say that, because it could be that had the attack not happened, the value of the nizik would have actually gone up to 800. So you caused the loss. Not only did you cause the loss, maybe even cause a greater loss now. But you don't have to pay for that, but you do have to pay the 25 that you owed in the beginning. And that means that we look at the valuation at the time of the attack. If the nizik went up, we look at the valuation at the time of the attack, not the time of the Hamad Bedin. Now, what happens if the valuation of the nizik went down? So here you look at the drop in price and you'll take that into account. So if it dropped from, let's say, from 150 to 100, then we would view the damage as having been the full 100. It went down from 200 to 100, even though the last drop was later. It was at the time of the Bedin. Still, we would take that into account, and the Sharmazik would have to pay 50 now, which is half of 100, instead of 25, which is half of 50. Now, we'll just incorporate the Gemara here. The Gemara here wants to know why, and the Gemara explains that the drop was caused by the hezek. This is drop which is attributable to the hezek. It's not referring to a situation where it dropped in value because the nizik, who's its owner, worked too hard, or it got sick, or any other reason. It's because of the hezek, and therefore it's all included in the hezek, even though it took a while for this drop in value to come forth. Now, next part of the brisa is what happens if the value of the mazik actually went up. Now, that's relevant because we had seen a machlekes earlier between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. When the hezek happens and the nizik takes part of the mazik, does he own a piece of the mazik, or does he just own a monetary amount equal to a piece of the mazik? The question, does he own the mazik or not? If he owns the mazik, then the increase in value of the mazik between the hezek and the Hamad Bedin would be in the rishus of the nizik, and he can take part of that increase in value. So let's say in our case, he did a hezek that was the mazik at the time of the hezek was worth 200 zuz. He owed 25 zuz. So that means he owed 1/8 of the value of the entire shar mazik. Then let's say it went up to 400. So it doubled in value. 1/8 of that belongs to the nizik, and his eighth went up in value too. So instead of being paid 25, now he should be paid 50. That would be one of the arguments. So the brisa passan is not that way. He doesn't own a piece, he doesn't get any of it, and he just stays with the same amount. Meaning we evaluate at the time of the hezek, we don't look at what happened at the time of the Hamad Bedin. Now, if the value of the mazik went down, then we do take that into account. And we say that the loss is going to be a loss for the nizik as well, and he's going to lose a piece of it. So the Gemara right away asks, so this is the stira. Do you hold like Rabbi Akiva? Do you hold like Rabbi Shmuel? When the value goes up, you say that the nizik doesn't get any increase in value. That sounds like Rabbi Shmuel, who says that he doesn't own a piece of the cow. He just has a monetary obligation. He just has a chayv. However, you say when it goes down, he does lose. That sounds like Rabbi Akiva, who says that he does own a piece and he loses value. So it's a contradiction. What's going on? So the Gemara answers the entire thing is really Rabbi Akiva, and therefore really he owns a piece of it and he should lose value when it goes down. He doesn't get a piece of it when it goes up, because when it goes up, we're not talking about a situation where it went up organically. We're talking about a situation where the mazik, the owner, invested in it to make the value increase. He fed it extra, he fattened it up good, and therefore that increase belongs completely to him. Now, the Gemara says if it's true that he did all the work, so that when it when the Brisa says that the nizik went up in value, that the increase in value is not taken into account, that will be the chiddush in that? Of course not. Not because you could have said, the nizik could say that if not for the attack, it could have gone up even more in value. That's not why. The reason is because he invested in it. He fattened it, so it's his own, belongs to him. So why do we have to give a different reason? So Gemara answers, there's two reasons there, and there's not really that much of a chiddush there. The Mishnah there is saying two reasons. The Brisa is saying there are two reasons. If it goes up in value, first of all, it could be because he fattened it, and therefore the nizik owns it. Or it could be because even if the nizik didn't invest in it, it went up in value, it could have gone up more. And therefore you have two reasons for that. However, in the later case, the case where the mazik went up in value, there you only have the one reason, and that's because the investment of the mazik is what made it go up in value. Now we get our next Mishnah, which discusses what happens with the nevela. So the Mishnah is trying to figure out what is the case that the pasuk is referring to when it says and then it continues and it says V'gam es hameis yechatzon. That means you split. In simple pshat here, it means the mazik and the nizik split the value of the living shar, meaning the shar mazik, and they also divide the dead shar, meaning the shar hanizik. What's this referring to? So the Tanna Kamma says it's referring to a case where you had two shvar. One is worth 200 zuz, the other is worth 200 zuz, and the mazik attacks the nizik and kills it, and its value drops to 0. So the damage was 200. So Rameir says, this is the fulfillment of the pasuk here. You split the shar hachai. You take the shar hachai, it's worth 200, split it in half. Each one gets 100. That's how much he owes, because it's worth, the hezek was worth 200. He owes chatzi nezek, which is 100. And there you've cleanly fulfilled the pasuk of a marchus shar hachai. Says Rabbi Yehuda, but you didn't split, you didn't fulfill a machu v'gamas hameis yechatzon. You're not splitting the nizik. So the case there then would be, let's say for example, the mazik is worth 200, the nizik is worth 200, and then it's attacked and it's killed, and the carcass is worth 50. So the loss is 150, and nezek, chatzi nezek would be 75. So each of them should have a loss of 75. Each of them should split the loss. So what do? So you divide the living shar, and they each therefore have 100, and you divide the carcass, and they each therefore get 25, for a total loss of 75. They started with 200 value, and they end up with 125 value. The mazik has half of his living shar and half of the carcass, which is 125. The nizik has the same, which is also 125. So they each lost 75, and that fulfills both, and that's the chatzi nezik of the 150 zuz damage that was caused. Now, the Gemara wants to know what's the practical halachic difference between these two opinions. The Gemara begins by quoting a brisa that says the same machlokes. It says over the Mishnah. It first brings the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that you split the shar hameis and the shar hachai. And then it brings the opinion of Rabbi Meir that you only split the shar hachai. In the same case, though, they each end up paying the same amount. In the brisa, Rabbi Meir clearly says he disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. He says that is not the case of the pasuk. The pasuk was talking about a case where it was 100. It was a 200 shar. The shar was worth 200 zuz. The nizik was worth 200 zuz. It went down to 0, and the loss therefore you have to pay the chatzi nizik is 100, and you can take that by taking half of the shar hachai. What is meant when it says in the pasuk v'gamas hameis yechatzon? It means half the value of the killing of the shar, meaning the loss of value of 200, you'll take that out of the shar hachai. It doesn't mean you split the shar hameis. It means the loss of the shar hameis is split half and half, and the half that the nizik will receive he'll take from the shar hachai. But either way, the Gemara points out this is the same halacha. In the case, let's say, where it was worth 200, went down to 50, they're each going to end up splitting each one, and they're going to end up with a loss of 125. So there's no difference in halacha. So why is there an argument here? So Mar explains the argument is what happens if the nevela lost value from the time that it died until they actually went to court. It cost money to deal with a dead cow. So what happens if it lost value there? So according to Rabbi Meir, the nevela belonged to the nizik. The mazik didn't take part of the nevela from him. It was all the nizik, and they just paid him the difference that he owed him. Since the nevela belonged to the nizik, if it loses value, it's the nizik's loss. The mazik doesn't lose any of that. According to Yehuda, however, they both owned half the nevela, and therefore, if it dropped in value, they'll each split the loss. So not only do they split everything else, he also split the loss. If it went down, let's say, from 50 to 40, so that 5 zuz loss will be a loss that they'll each have to divide. Asks the Gemara if that's true, that it turns out that a tam is stricter on the mazik than a mu'ud. And that would be difficult because a mu'ud pays full and therefore it should be more chamer. How is it so that the tam is stricter than the mu'ud? Because about the mu'ud it says clearly that the responsibility to deal with the nevela is only on the nizik. It says, V'hamesi aloi, he has to deal with it himself. And if by the mu'ud, it's the loss of the nevela would be fully on the nizik, certainly the tam can't be worse than that for the mazik and be lost to the mazik also. Now, the Gemara says that maybe you'll say, no, the mood could be lighter than the mazik. As a matter of fact, I'll show you where it is. The halacha is, which we'll see coming up in Perek Dalad V'hei, Shar Shenogach Dalad V'hei, that is. We'll see over there that if you did a tiny shmira, a shmira pchusa on a muad, you're putter, because the Torah is exeris kasav there. The Torah says you only chayav for the muad if you didn't watch it at all. If you did some kind of watching, you're putter. On a time, that's not true. On a time, you have to do a fitting shmira. There's no such exeris kasav. So there is a way then that the halacha of the muad is lighter than the halacha of the tam. And that's where Yehuda holds here. So maybe you say that here, that's true too. As far as the loss of the nevela, the halacha of the mud is lighter than that of the tam. Someone says, no, you only see that as far as the halachas of shemira. You don't see that as far as the halachas of cost and loss. And then where it shows a brisa where Rabbi Yehuda clearly says that the tam has to be lighter than the mud. It's discussing a similar case. You have a shor worth a mana that gored a shor worth a mana. That got a shar worth 5 slime, that is, and its value went down from 5 slime to 1 selah. You split the shar hachai, you split the shar hames, and everybody takes whatever they have left. And Rabbi Yehuda there says a phrase. It says that kal v'chomer. It says, why is the muad separated, to be machmer or to be mekel? To be machmer. So if a muad only pays the actual hezek, a tam, which is lighter, so certainly only have to pay the actual hezek and not more than that. In Yanenu, we see from here that the tam has to be equal to or lighter than the muad. It can't be stricter, and therefore we have a kasha here. According to the way we're explaining this, it comes out that the tam is stricter than the muad because the mazik has to deal with half the loss of the value of the nevela, while the muad doesn't have to deal with any of it. Gemara therefore offers a different answer as to what is the case where there is a nafkamina between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yochanan, and he says the nafkamina is in a situation where instead of the nevela going down in value, the nevela actually went up in value. Who gains the increased value? According to Rabbi Yehuda, they both split it, and the mazik gains part of the increased value as well. According to Rabbi Meir, the nevela is all the problem, and therefore also the gain of the nizik, and he would himself gain the increased value, no one else. Says the Gemara, this explains a kasha that Rabbi Yehuda asks later. Rabbi Yehuda asks, how is it possible that the mazik can gain from his hezek? What's he asking? How does he construe that you may think that? So we'll be referring to a case where there's actually an increase in value, and since he owns part of the shar hanizik, he can actually gain from it. So the case would be, if you have a shar that's worth 5 slime, which is equal to 20 zuz, and it gores a shar worth 100 zuz, so a 20 selah gored 100 selah, and the value of the nevela is only 50, so it's a loss of 50. So you have a 20 selah shar, gores a 100 selah shar, and causes a loss of 50. So if you would say, like Rabbi Yehuda does, each one it takes half, that means his 20 selah goes down to 10 each, and the 50 selah goes down to 25 each, and he walks away with a total of 35 selah, where he only started with 20. So he actually gains from it. So is that possible? So in that, Rabbi Yehuda asks, no, it's not possible. You can't gain from a hezek that you caused. And now this makes sense, because it makes sense that he has the kasha, because since he holds that the mazik should theoretically take part of the gain, because he owns part of the, because the mazik and the nizik split the actual shar hames. Now, he added another point there, and he says that the reason you can't make a gain here for the mazik is because it says shalim yishalim. There's two losses. First of all, there's a loss because of the hezek that he causes, and there's another loss that he doesn't get to take a gain if a gain happens. I'm going to ask, why do you need that? Why do you need to add that? We already said it's not possible. You can't gain from a hezek that you caused. So my answer is you need that because you may think you can't gain from a hezek that you caused in a case where there's ultimately a loss to the nizik. What if there's ultimately a gain to the nizik altogether? What if the actual nevela is worth more than the shar was worth when it was alive? Such as if the original shar, you had a 5 selah, a 20 zuz shar that was mazik another 20 zuz shar, and the nevela is worth 30 zuz, so it went up. So you may think there, okay, everybody gains. So the mazik can gain some of that as well. So for that, you need shalim yishalim. It's not enough to say the svara that he shouldn't gain from the hezek that he caused, because his hezek didn't work. His hezek actually brought a gain for the nizik. Maybe he gets a part of that. No, he doesn't get the gain from it at all. He doesn't take anything from it. Now, the Gemara says the kash on this though, because if you want to say that the machlekes is who gets the increased value, you can have a situation where the mazik ends up having to pay more than half the nezik that he gets. What would that case be? So, for example, you have a shar worth 50, that's mazik a shar worth 40, and then the nevela goes down to 20. So the value of the nevela is now 20. They each get 10, and they also split the shar hamazik, which was 50, and they each would therefore walk away with 25 from that. So the mazik walks away with a total of 35 zuz worth. Now, the damage that he caused was only 20, and half of that is 10. Yet, he started with a 50 zuz shar. He went down to 35 zuz worth of shar, half of his and half of the nizik. So he lost 15, but he only was supposed to lose 5 because of the hezek that he caused of 5. So how could you allow him to lose more than the chatzei nezek? On that, the Gemara answers no. The pasuk says otherwise. It says in that case he wouldn't lose more than half, because it says v'gam es hameis yachatzun. The Gemara says, what do you mean v'gam es hameis yachatzun? Or already said goes to teach me that they each divide the nevela. The Gemara says no. Then that would have been enough to say es hameis yachatzun. What's v'gam? V'gam is to teach me this extra halacha. Even if the math works out wrong, you'll adjust it to make sure he doesn't lose more than chatzi nezek. Now we get the next Mishnah, which discusses situations in which you're chayiv for your shar's action, and if you were to do it, you'd be putter. And in case where you're chayiv for your action, if your shar were to do it, you would be putter. So the cases where you're putter on your shar, but you yourself would be chayiv, are the busho, you mevayish someone, you don't pay for the busho of your animal, or if you knock out an eye or a tooth from an eved, the eved goes for you. That's only if you do it, not if your shar would do it. The case where it's the other way, that your shor would be chayav but you would not, is if there's kimlei b'derabimene. That if you would get a greater punishment like misa, then you would be pater because you couldn't get both the misa and the lighter punishment of having to pay. So what would that be? Because an injury to your mother or father, so there you'd be chayav misa. But if the shor were to do it, he would have to pay, but you wouldn't have to pay because you get the misa. Or if you set fire to a gadish on Shabbos, you would be chayav. You, as a person, would be pater because of coming to the remedy for lighting a fire on Shabbos, but the shar you would be chayav for. Now we begin the Gemara. The Gemara starts a sugya in Hilchos Shabbos. Are you chayav for mekalkel, for destroying something? So generally, there's no iser deraisa on Shabbos unless you're fixing something, you're improving something. And mekalkel is just destructive. You're pater for at least deraisa. Gemara says there's two exceptions. Rabbi Vo says to Rabbi Yechon there are two exceptions, and that's causing a chavala, causing a wound, and lighting a fire. Where do you see that? So Rashi brings causing a wound because the Torah is matir mila. So you see, otherwise chavala would generally be aser, and sreifa because the Torah asers the burning of a bas kohen on Shabbos shows that there is an iser sreifa. Now, this is what he said. The Gemara says he responded to him, and he said it's not true. Go teach his Mishnah outside because it's not true. It's ain't a Mishnah. And if you want to say that it is a Mishnah, it's the only reason you could be chayiv for chayvel and mavir is if it's a tikkun ultimately. That's the chaval if you need the blood for a dog, or mavir if you need it to make a fair. But it's got to be some tikkun, otherwise you wouldn't. So we end up with a machlokes. Are you chayiv for mavir and chayvel if it is a kilkul only?